Okay, so Planck and Greg have now gone to Istanbul. There's a picture of the Basilica cistern with the upside down head of Medusa, which is discussed in the symbols video. The Basilica cistern, also known as the Versonken Paleis or the Sunken Palace, that's where Zander waits, or he meets Greg again after a long time. Zander gives Greg a new cell phone and he wipes it over Greg's hand because the old cell phones and computer, Greg's old cell phone and computer has been destroyed because that's how people track you. And then Zander besef, the transponder is nie daar nie, and he walks away. It's like, Greg, our deal is off. So Planck and Greg bly in a hotel. Zander comes back. He says, Ayla het hom oorreed. She convinced him to come back. She believes in tweede kanse, second chances. Ayla is Zander's meisie. Her dad is Turkish, mom is South African. She went to school in Johannesburg and Zander met her at Freedom House, which is an organization that monitors internet freedom. Ayla se pa at some stage is ook 'n verdagte. Is hy die baker? Because, let me just enlarge this a bit. Hy travel baie, hy's 'n dokter, hy het min kontak met Ayla, so he could be the baker. So Ayla se pa en ma, hulle werk vir Doctors Without Borders. What else happens in Istanbul? So Zander then realizes that hy besef Planck het die transponder, and Zander then says they're going to look for the baker on the dark web. While they're in Istanbul, Planck befriends, he talks with Camden, who sells fruit and veg. Ayla finds the burnt book, which Greg had kept hidden. There still lots of trust issues at this stage between Greg and Zander, so Greg kept it hidden, Ayla found it, and Zander recognizes chemical middles, like chemical substances. And that's when they start researching it, we find out about Project Coast, so what it involved in South Africa, the page references. So in apartheid, hulle het mense, they killed them in cruel ways, and some of these substances, jy tel dit nie op, so you can't pick it up in an autopsy. And some of the chemical substances, they put it on your clothes, your klere. And please remember, don't write kleure with the U because that's colors. Completely different thing. So die klere, and then it is absorbed by your vel, your skin. And one of the chemical substances was paraoxon. I hope that's how you say it. So Greg and Zander then decide they're going to ask the baker to make a gif, a poison. They're not going to ask him to make a virus, because that, like Project Nursery Rhyme, because that might arouse suspicion. So they're going to ask for a poison like Novichok. And you can read all about that on page 168. So they start sending these messages on the dark web, and they get the replies that says, look elsewhere. And they realize that elsewhere is a website. There's this whole story of chaos. I can't make head or tails of it. But there's no other links on this website. So Greg has the inspiration to use the font code app and to decipher this elsewhere website where all there was the story. And once they decipher it, they create a message to go to a .onion web page, which is that Tor, the onion router. This is where it gets very complicated. And I sort of just, ignore it a bit. So they go to this .onion web page, then they send a message on there asking now the baker, we want to, can you cook us something up? I can't remember the exact message. And the answer they get is, Greg en Zander, met wie dink julle speel julle? Who do you think you're playing with? So they have definitely now made contact with the baker. So how are they going to find the baker? And what they decide to do is they're going to send a video for the baker. They're going to leave it op Zander's server. Remember, the baker left the Zander's father's execution video on his server, so he knows how to get there. They're going to leave a video on Zander's server, but the baker will have to download of aflaai a code to watch this video. And when he downloads this code, because he's going to be the only one looking for this code, they will find his IP address. And of course, his IP address says that the baker is in Florence in Italia. And the problem now, as South Africans, Greg and Plank, they need Schengen visums. To go to Italy from Istanbul, they need to apply or doen aansoek for that visum in South Africa 15 days before you travel. That's not an option. They're already in Istanbul. So Zander orders them false paspoorte op die Donker Web, so they end up with Belgian passwords or passports van België. So when they stuur a video for the baker on Zander's server, the baker must download this code, but in this code, again, that's a mistake, hulle steek 'n virus in die kode weg. So they hide, again, a virus in this code, and this virus allows them toegang of access tot die baker se rekenaar. Then Plank tells them later on that he had Camden's cell phone geleen of geborrowed to phone Lisa, and Camden has now told him people were asking Camden about these 3 South African guys and a Turkish girl. So Plank comes back, he says, oh, we're in deep trouble. So the police come, and I've put it in inverted commas because later Ayla says, no, those guys weren't the police. So they come to Zander and Ayla's flat in Istanbul. Our guys all flee, and Zander then says, Plank must stay behind. He's caused enough problems. First, he planted the transponder in his hand, then he phoned Lisa, then he was talking to Camden, the whole loose lips, sink ships, and Greg has to choose, and Greg chooses Zander. While they are in Istanbul, Greg and Zander go and visit the Hagia Sophia Museum, the Heilige Wijsheid or the Holy Wisdom, and that's where they, again, Zander says that palindrome, that Greek palindrome about wash the sins, not only the face, it used to be in the Hagia Sophia on a baptismal font. So die water, it's symbolic, it marks skoon, it cleanses or reinig, it purifies. And this palindrome is also symbolic of death and rebirth, which could possibly be a question, I don't know. So not a lot happening in Istanbul, but there you go.